welcome back to the GetPianoLessons.com video series. Today we're on Lesson 7, and when we concluded with our previous lesson, I raised the following question. What's the real secret to playing the piano with both hands at the same time? Well, you may be surprised to know that during our first 6 piano lessons, we've actually been uncovering part of that secret all along. You see, the way to learn any piece of music on the piano and play it professionally is to practice the part of each hand separately and then gradually begin to combine those two parts together. And during our previous 6 piano lessons, that's exactly what we've been doing. So now that we've had a chance to get our hands on the keyboard one at a time and get acquainted to the piano keyboard, it's time to introduce both our hands to the piano at the same time and begin to develop our hand-to-hand coordination. But before we start practicing our two-handed piano exercises, let me first show you a few examples of how you might actually break down a piece of piano music into the separate right hand and left hand parts and slowly begin to play them one hand at a time, note for note, and beat by beat. Now say for instance that we have a basic piano piece that sounds like this. Alright, nothing too fancy at this point. In fact, it's played with both our hands in our all-familiar first position, or C position on the keyboard. So we don't have to worry about moving around too much. But one thing we need to pay attention to when we start playing with both hands is our timing, because both hands need to be in sync with the beat as we play. And the best way to keep track of the beat is to count each beat as you play, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can see that in this particular piece, we have 4 beats, which is very common in today's popular music. And we can also see that the left hand has the less complicated job in this piece, because it's actually playing in sync with the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So since the left hand is the easier hand in this case, we're going to focus our attention mainly on the right hand part first. Now the right hand is doing a few different things that we need to break down and study one at a time. First of all, it's playing a group of 2-note broken chords in a kind of syncopated rhythm. That means it's playing off the beats. So in order to understand how we're going to combine playing on the beat with playing off the beat, first I'll show you an example of what it sounds like to play both hands on the beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice how the right hand was playing directly on a beat in sync with the left hand. In this case, it's the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now when the right hand is playing off the beat, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice the difference? In this case, the right hand plays in between the beats. So in between 1 and 2, the right hand plays. 1, 2. In between 2 and 3, the right hand plays. 2, 3. And in between 3 and 4, the right hand plays again. 3, 4. So that makes this particular passage sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the final thing to keep in mind here is the fingering. Obviously, we don't play this piece by bouncing around with 2 fingers. I just did that so that you could clearly see which notes were being played. As with any piano piece, you really want to get your hand in the proper position on the keyboard and use the correct fingering, which in this case is the 1 and 3 fingers, the 2 and 4 fingers, and the 3 and 5 fingers. So once we've studied all the different elements that are going on in the right hand and can integrate both hands together, we could then play this piece in other positions on the piano, and it would sound as though we have a real song going on. Okay, now I want to show you an example of how you might go about playing the separate hands of a slightly more advanced piece of music. But since the skill level of this piece goes beyond anything I've covered so far, I'm really not expecting you to try and play it perfectly, although you can definitely follow along on what I'm doing here and give it a try if you'd like. But what I'm basically showing you right now is just a basic demonstration. So here's a few bars from one of my personal favorite Chopin tunes. Now, as I said, this is obviously a more advanced piece, but what I'm trying to show you here is that even a piece like this can be slowed down and played one hand at a time, note for note, and beat by beat. And yes, there are some advanced features to this piano piece that would give any beginner a hard time, such as the jumping left hand. When making leaps like that, you'd have to be careful not to overshoot or undershoot the chord position you're reaching for. Also, you'd need to train your left hand to quickly shape itself into the chord position you're trying to play without accidentally tripping or fumbling into notes that you don't want to play. And then on the right hand side, you'd have to get used to the stretching and the reaching of this right hand fingering style. But as long as you're willing to put the hours of practice in, there's really no difference between the way you'd learn this song or any other song. Now, just as before, the first thing you'd want to do is keep track of the amount of beats you have in your song. And in this case, we have a count of 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And this is known as 3/4 time, or waltz time. And it just so happens that our left hand is once again playing in sync with the beat. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. The right hand is playing 2 notes for every beat. So what that means is for every count of 3 beats, our right hand is playing 6 notes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Also notice how the right hand tends to take on a much more flattened and spread out position than what we're normally accustomed to. And this is so that we can easily accommodate all the notes without, jumping around too much. But specifically for this piece, there are basically 4 right hand positions you need to learn in order to play these right hand notes fluently. Now the first right hand shape encompasses all the first 6 notes you need to play. Your next set of 6 notes would have your hand in this shape. And then your third set of 6 notes will get your hand in this shape. And then your fourth set of 6 notes will put your right hand in this position. So one of the major tasks in playing this piece correctly would be to learn all 4 of these right hand positions. The first right hand position, second position, third position, and the fourth position. Now, if you're a beginner, this would most definitely be a big challenge, especially if you're not used to stretching your hands out on the keyboard. You'd have to really train your muscles of your hands to relax, and you'd definitely experience some sore hands for a while in the beginning, at least until you get used to the exercises. But like any physical exercise, once you give your muscles a chance to recover, you'll get better with it as you practice more. So with that said, I'm going to demonstrate how you go about combining both hands together and play this piece 1 beat at a time. And you'll see that we'll study this piece as though we were literally pressing the play and pause buttons on a DVD player, so that we can really dissect every single beat and see what's going on at each stage. So the first thing you'd want to do is get your right hand in that first position I mentioned. And no, I don't mean our C position, which is what we're normally accustomed to. This first position is only specific to this particular song. Next, we want to get our left hand into position to play that first lower bass note before we make the leap up to the higher chord position. So for our first beat, and remember we have a count of 3 beats, we play that single note in our left hand and the first 2 of 6 notes in our right hand. 1. Alright, so that's what's happening on our first beat. And then in our second beat, our left hand makes the jump up to the higher chord position and our right hand plays the next 2 notes. 2. And for the third beat, our left hand stays exactly where it is and we play the last 2 of 6 notes for this right hand position. 3. Then if we play all 3 beats together, we get this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now to play our next 3 beats, our left hand comes down again to a bass note, while our right hand gets into our second right hand position. On the first beat, our left hand plays that single bass note, and our right hand plays the first 2 notes. 1. On the second beat, our left hand makes the leap up to the higher chord position, and our right hand plays the next 2 notes. 2. And for the third beat, our left hand stays where it is, and we play the last 2 of the right hand notes. 3. And if we play all 3 beats together, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. And now for our third set of 3 beats, our left hand comes down a little further to a lower bass note, while our right hand takes the shape of our third right hand position. On 1, we play that single bass note in the left hand, and our right hand plays 2 notes. 1. On 2, our left hand leaps up to the higher chord position, and we play 2 more notes with the right hand. 2. And then on 3, we play the left chord again, and we play the last 2 notes in our right hand. 3. And then when we play these 3 beats together, it'll sound like this. 1, 2, 3. And for our final set of 3 beats, our left hand comes down once again to a lower bass note, while our right hand assumes our fourth right hand position. On 1, we play the single bass note and our right hand plays 2 notes. 1. On 2, the left hand comes up to the higher chord position and we play 2 more notes in the right hand. 2. On 3, we play the left chord again and the last 2 notes in the right hand. 3. And when we play all 3 of these beats together, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. And there you have it. That's the way you break down pretty much any piece of piano music, no matter if it's a simple beginner piece or something much more complicated. All you need to do is slow it down as much as possible and learn the separate parts of each hand individually, and then gradually integrate the 2 hands together at a snail's pace. Now, of course, certain features in some songs will require more mechanical aptitude and hand-to-hand coordination than others. But even if it takes you a week, a couple of weeks, or even a month, all you need to do is keep practicing it. Don't get discouraged, never give up, and just believe in yourself. Now, I know you must be saying to yourself, well, sure, that's easy for you to say. Well, when I was a kid, I used to be really out of shape, and I used to have this cousin that could do like 100 push-ups without hardly breaking a sweat. And at that time, I couldn't even do 1 push-up, and I used to say to him, I could never do that. And he used to just look at me and say, look, as long as you have 2 arms, you can do it. You just need to practice. And that's exactly what I'd say to you as well. As long as you have 10 fingers, you can play this exercise. The only difference between me and you is that I probably have been doing it longer. But that's all. Because with the right amount of effort and determination, you'll definitely be able to play a piece of music like this in just a matter of time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I want to show you one more example of a popular 2-handed playing style in which our right hand plays a single note melody line and the left hand plays an arrangement of supporting chords. may notice that this piece begins and ends with both our hands in our first position, the C position. And as a matter of fact, the melody for this song just happens to revolve around the C major scale. Alright, so once again, let's split the song up into the right and left hand parts and see what's going on in each hand. First, let's start out with the melody line. And I'll use the count of 2 as I play the right hand in time with the beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, now let's see what the left hand is doing. In this song, the left hand plays a steady progression of chords to support the melody line and create a sense of rhythm. And since we're counting to the beat of 2, each chord will be played for 2 beats, just like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And now we see what each hand is doing separately. Let's bring both these friends together and slowly begin to turn this exercise into a great sounding song. But just remember, when you first start playing any piano piece with both hands, go as slowly as you need to until your hand-to-hand coordination begins to develop naturally. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Also, you'll find that when you become a more experienced piano player, you'll want to improvise and add little tricks and subtle rhythm changes to a song like this, just to make it a little bit more interesting and original. Okay, that's enough of watching me play. Let's get you started on your first two-handed piano lesson so that you can begin developing your own piano playing skills. So be sure to join me in part 2 of this video lesson, where I'll show you how to slowly start applying some of the basic hand-to-hand playing techniques I just demonstrated. Plus, I'll let you in on a little-known sight reading secret that's very helpful for playing 2 separate lines of notes at the same time. And actually, it's not so much of a secret as it is more of a commonly misunderstood way to sight read when you need to use both hands together. So I really hope you've learned how to number your fingers by now, because all that time we've invested practicing finger patterns with our separate hands is about to pay off big time.